The stars were silent. Wreckage drifted across the void, burned hulls, shattered wings, ships split in half. The human fleet was broken. Hours earlier, it had been proud and strong. Dozens of warships stood in formation, carrying the hope of Earth. But now, after the alien ambush, only a handful of ships remained. Engines cracked, shields gone, ammunition low. The few survivors floated in the dark like prey waiting for the kill. And the predators were coming. The alien warlords had followed them across the system. Their ships glowed with power, perfect and untouched. They moved like hunters circling wounded prey. Inside the human ships, silence filled the bridges. Men and women looked at their captains with fear in their eyes. They knew what was coming. They knew the war was lost. But humans are strange. When others see defeat, humans sometimes see something else. On the flagship Valiant, Captain Elias Harker stood at the cracked command table. His face was pale, his uniform torn, but his eyes were alive. Reports came in one by one, ships too damaged to fight, crews begging for orders. Some asked to surrender, others asked for permission to run. But Harker did not answer. He stared at the wreckage, at the broken steel, at the scattered survivors who refused to die quietly. And then he saw it. Not defeat, not ruin, but a weapon. Link them, he said. His voice was quiet but firm. The crew looked at him, confused. So, every ship, every piece of wreckage, link them together. Now, at first, they thought he had lost his mind. How could tying broken ships together help against a fleet of alien warlords? But humans follow orders when all else fails. And so, across the dock, the survivors began to move. One crippled destroyer turned and locked its hull against another. Tugboats pulled wreckage into place. Fighters without engines rammed themselves into the structure. Piece by piece, a shape began to form. On the alien side, laughter filled their comms. They watched as the humans tied their dying ships together, making one giant, twisted mess of metal. They thought it was desperation. They thought it was madness. They were half right. Hours passed. And slowly, the broken fleet became something else. The wrecks were no longer drifting. They were chained, welded, fused by human hands. Inside, crews worked with sparks and torches, turning dead engines into fuel tanks, turning scraps into armor. And at the center, the flagship Valiant powered up its last weapon, a single massive railgun. Harker stood at the viewing glass as the alien fleet drew closer. His crew stayed with him, sweat on their faces, hands shaking. They knew the truth. One shot was all they would get. One chance to make the galaxy remember. Target their flagship, Harker ordered. The alien warlord ship loomed larger and larger, confident in its victory. Its weapons charged, ready to end the humans once and for all. But before the aliens could fire, the humans did. The broken fleet came alive. Thrusters ignited, pushing the massive welded structure forward. It was slow, ugly, but unstoppable, a giant spear of broken ships aimed straight at the heart of the enemy. The railgun fired. The shot tore across the void like lightning. The sound was silent in space, but every human felt it in their bones. The slug smashed through shields, armor, and steel. It pierced the alien flagship from bow to stern, splitting it apart in a flash of fire and shattered metal. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Panic rippled through the alien warlords. If humans could do this with scraps, what could they do with a full fleet? Their confidence shattered. Some ships turned and ran. Others hesitated, unsure if the wreck of humans was truly dead, or if it was a birth of something worse. On the bridge of the Valiant, the humans cheered. Broken, bleeding, half dead, they had done the impossible. But Captain Harker did not smile. He knew the war was far from over. The broken fleet could not survive another battle. Yet today was proof. Proof that even when shattered, even when outnumbered, humanity could still strike fear into the strongest of enemies. The aliens had thought the humans were finished. Instead, they had learned a terrible truth. When humans are cornered, when everything is lost, that is when they are most dangerous. Titan was quiet. Too quiet. The colony sat beneath the thick orange skies, its domes glowing faintly in the endless dusk. Inside those domes lived 30,000 humans, miners, engineers, families. They had come to Titan for work, for hope, for a chance at a new life. But now, hope was gone. Alien warships surrounded the moon. Their blockade cut off every supply line, every rescue ship, every call for help. No food came, no medicine, no reinforcements. Titan was trapped. At first, the colonists thought Earth would save them. They waited. They prayed. But days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months. No one came. The aliens wanted to break them slowly, starve them, crush them without firing a single shot. The humans should have surrendered. It was a logical choice. No army, no fleet, no chance. But logic has never guided humanity. Inside Titan's domes, the people refused to kneel. They dug deeper tunnels into the ice. They forged weapons from mining drills and explosives from fuel cells. Farmers grew food in secret hydroponic bays, rationing every bite. Children carried messages through vents too small for soldiers. Everyone fought, in their own way. The siege dragged on. Hunger spread. Disease spread. Yet the colony stood. The aliens grew impatient. Finally, they sent their armies to land. War machines marched across the ice, black against the orange sky. Alien soldiers moved in ranks, confident the starving humans would fall in minutes. But Titan was ready. As the first alien tanks rolled toward the colony dome, the ice cracked beneath them. Explosives, buried weeks earlier, detonated in thunder. Entire platoons vanished in gouts of fire. Snipers fired from hidden shafts. Miners triggered collapses that buried soldiers under tons of ice. Every tunnel, every corner, was a trap. The aliens had expected weak prey. What they found was a fortress. For every dome they entered, humans had already turned it into a battleground. Walls were rigged with bombs. Narrow holes forced the enemy into kill zones. Even when humans ran out of guns, they fought with blades, pipes, and bare hands. The aliens could not understand it. These were not trained soldiers. These were workers, parents, children. Yet they fought with a fury the invaders had never seen. Weeks passed. The siege grew bloodier. The aliens tightened their grip, sending more troops, more machines. But the humans never broke. Even as rations shrank to crumbs, even as sickness spread, they kept fighting. In one battle, when the aliens breached Dome 3, they found the humans waiting. Families had armed themselves with anything sharp, standing side by side. The aliens advanced, and the humans charged. Starving, sick, exhausted, they still pushed the invaders back. Dome 3 burned, but it did not fall. The warlords commanding the siege began to doubt. If starving civilians could resist for months, what would trained human armies do when they finally arrived? And then, one night, the humans made their move. Using the tunnels beneath Titan's ice, they launched a counterattack. Fighters crawled up under the alien base camp, planting charges in fuel depots and weapon stores. At the same time, others struck from the domes, firing everything they had left. The surface of Titan erupted in chaos. Explosions lit the skies. Alien ships burned. Supply lines shattered. In one night, the siege collapsed. When dawn came, the aliens pulled back. Their blockade broke. They had lost too much for too little. Titan was not worth the cost. The colony had survived. Inside the battered domes, humans gathered in silence. They had no strength to cheer, no energy to celebrate. But they were alive. They had done the impossible. The siege of Titan was remembered not as a battle of soldiers, but as a war will. The aliens learned the truth that day. Never corner humanity. Even starving, even broken, they will fight. And sometimes that fight is enough to win. The galaxy had mocked human weapons for centuries. Projectiles, slugs of metal, bullets fired with magnets. To the advanced empires, these were toys. Childish, outdated. The alien fleets carried plasma lancers, antimatter beams, shields that could bend light itself. Against such power, a simple human railgun looked like a relic from a forgotten age. And so they laughed. But on one battlefield, the laughter ended. The war had dragged into its third year. Human colonies burned. Fleets shattered. A dozen alien empires had joined together, believing humanity was weak, fragile, and easy to erase. Over Titan, over Mars, over the moons of Jupiter, humans had fought and bled. But now the enemy pressed deeper, toward Earth itself. The last line of defense was a single ship, the UNS Dauntless. It was a heavy cruiser, old and scarred. Its shields were failing. Its engines burned too hot. But hidden in its long spine was one weapon the galaxy had not yet faced, a railgun the size of City Street. A prototype, never meant to be used in open war. And yet here it was, humanity's last hope. The alien flagship arrived first. It was a monster of steel and light, 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. It had already destroyed 2 fleets and an orbital station. Its commander was certain this would be no different. When the Dauntless powered up its railgun, the alien officers laughed. They had seen human slug before, slow, weak, easily absorbed by shields. Their flagship could take 1,000 such shots without flinching. But they had never seen this railgun. Captain Mara Lisson stood on the bridge of the Dauntless. Her crew was silent, tense, watching the alien flagship grow larger on the view screens. Around them floated wreckage from the earlier battle, burning, drifting, reminders of what would happen if they failed. The order came in her calm voice. Charge the gun. The ship vibrated. Power rerouted from engines, shields, even life support. The great coils along the rail hummed with energy. Lights flickered. The entire cruiser felt alive, as if holding its breath. The alien flagship moved closer, charging its beams, confident in its coming kill. But Captain Ellison only whispered, "Hold steady." Then came the shot. The Dauntless released its payload, a slug of tungsten the size of a car, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. There was no sound in space, only the silent flash of light as the railgun fired. The slug crossed the void in seconds. It hit the alien flagship shield. And for the first time in the war, an alien shield did not hold. The slug punched through like glass. It tore into armor, through bulkheads, through reactors. The flagship shuddered as a line of fire split it in two. Explosions ripped across its length. Entire decks vented into the void. The flagship's power core ruptured in a flash brighter than the sun. And then it was gone. 3 kilometers of alien steel, reduced to burning fragments, spinning into darkness. Silence filled the alien fleet. The laughter was gone. Now there was only fear. If humans could do this with one gun, what would happen if they built 10? 100? 1,000? The answer spread like fire across the galaxy. Humanity had found a way to kill gods. On the bridge of the Dauntless, the crew stared in awe. No one spoke at first. They couldn't believe it. The ship that had burned worlds, that had led the alien crusade, was gone in a single shot. Captain Ellison finally broke the silence. "Reload," she said softly. Her crew obeyed. The alien fleet wavered. Some ships held their ground, too proud to retreat. Others began to fall back, unwilling to risk the wrath of another railgun slug. The balance of the battle shifted in that moment. Humanity, once hunted, now had teeth. The story of the shot spread across the stars. Colonists whispered it in hidden shelters. Soldiers repeated it in the trenches. Even alien leaders spoke of it in their councils. The galaxy had learned a new phrase, the shot heard across the stars. It was more than a weapon. It was a message. Humans may be fragile. Humans may be weak. But when they fight, when they innovate, when they refuse to bow, they create miracles that shake empires. And so the laughter ended. From that day forward, every alien commander studied human railguns with fear in their eyes. Because if one shot could kill a flagship, what would happen when humanity fired many? Mars was burning. The red world, once full of domes, cities, and dreams, now choked on smoke and fire. Alien troop carriers cut through the sky. Thousands of soldiers poured onto the planet's surface, their machines shaking the ground as they advanced. The warlords thought it was over. Humanity was beaten. The colonies across the solar system had fallen. And now, Mars, once the pride of human expansion, would be erased. But they had miscalculated. The main city of New Oz lay in ruins. Streets cracked, domes shattered, towers toppled. And yet, in the tunnels beneath, survivors gathered. Soldiers, miners, engineers, families. Only a few thousand remained, armed with scavenged weapons and sheer stubborn will. Their commander was Colonel Juno Reyes. Her armor was scorched, her voice hoarse, but her eyes burned with defiance. She knew there would be no rescue, no reinforcements. Mars was cut off, and still she told her people, "We hold here. We make them pay for every step." The first wave came at dawn. Alien soldiers marched through the rubble, scanning for survivors. They expected a simple sweep, one final cleanup of human resistance. Instead, the ground exploded beneath them. Mines, hidden in the date, ripped entire squads apart. Snipers fired from shattered towers. Rockets launched from saw pipes. The aliens fell back in shock as humans fought tooth and nail for every street. Inside the ruins, the defenders moved like shadows. Every alley was a trap. Every collapse building a fortress. Civilians carried ammo. Children relayed messages through ventilation shafts. No one stood idle. The aliens returned with heavier weapons. Tanks rolled through the streets, blasting walls apart. War drones swarmed overhead, firing plasma beams. But the humans adapted. Colonel Reyes led ambush after ambush. Her soldiers darted from tunnels, striking fast, then vanishing into smoke. Engineers turned construction equipment into weapons, cranes that toppled onto tanks, mining drills that tore through armor. Every human fought with desperate fury. For weeks, the city bled, but it did not fall. The aliens grew frustrated. They unleashed bombardment from orbit, leveling entire districts. Firestorms swept through the ruins. Yet even in the ashes, the humans remained. One night, Reyes gathered her fighters in the underground command post. Faces pale, bodies weak, ammo low. A young soldier whispered, "Colonel, we can't win." Reyes looked at him, her face lit by the flickering glow of a cracked console. "We're not here to win," she said. Silence fell. "We're here to remind them what it cost to fight us. Even if we fall, Mars will stand as proof. Proof that humans don't break." The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then, one by one, heads lifted, eyes hardened. They understood. The final assault came with thunder. The aliens poured everything into one last push. Thousands of troops, war machines, artillery fire that shook the crust of the planet. Reyes rallied the defenders. "Hold the line," she roared. And they did. The streets of New Orleans became a nightmare. Every corner was a battlefield. Smoke turned the air black. Plasma fire lit the sky. Humans fought hand to hand in burning ruins, screaming with rage, refusing to step back. Even when ammo ran dry, they fought with blades, pipes, and fists. Even when wounded, they dragged themselves to their feet. Even when death closed in, they fought harder. The aliens took ground, but slowly, too slowly. Every minute cost them more lives, more machines. What should have been an easy victory turned into weeks of brutal street fighting. And that delay changed everything. Because as Mars burned, Earth heard. Reinforcements launched from the homeworld. Human fleets, battered but unbroken, surged across space. By the time the aliens broke through the last human barricade, new ships were already arriving in orbit. Fresh soldiers dropped onto the planet, striking the invaders from behind. The tide turned. When the smoke cleared, Mars still flew the human flag. The aliens retreated, scarred and humiliated. They had brought fire and steel, yet still failed to break humanity. In the ruins of New Orleans, Colonel Reyes stood with a few survivors of her force. She looked across the burning city, her body heavy with exhaustion. A soldier beside her whispered, "We held." Reyes nodded slowly. Her voice was almost a whisper. "No, Mars held." The last stand on Mars was remembered not just as a battle, but as a warning. The aliens had thought humanity would crumble. Instead, they discovered something far worse. Even when outnumbered, outgunned, and doomed, humans fight until the stars themselves burn. And sometimes, that fight is enough to turn defeat into victory. The aliens believed cages could hold humans. They were wrong. Deep within the slave world of Carthos, thousands of captured humans lived in chains. Soldiers, miners, colonists, anyone unlucky enough to be caught during the war. The aliens stripped them of weapons, starved them, and forced them into endless labor. Carthos was no prison of bars. It was worse. A world built of mines and pits, watched by towers of steel. Armed guard patrolled day and night. Shock collars bound the prisoners. Escape was impossible. The aliens thought so, at least. But among the humans, whispers grew. Whispers of rebellion. In one of the deepest minds worked a man named Dane Keller. Once a soldier, now a slave. His body was scarred, his hands blistered, but his mind remained sharp. Every day he studied the gods, their routines, their arrogance, their weaknesses. The aliens thought humans too broken to resist. They didn't see Keller watching, waiting. He wasn't alone. Beside him toiled Dr. Ilara Singh, once a scientist, now reduced to carrying rocks. She hid her knowledge, pretending to be weak. But in secret, she gathered scraps, wires, circuits, anything she could steal from broken machines. Together, Keller and Singh built a plan. It would take weeks, maybe months, and failure meant death. But humans have never feared impossible odds. The first step was patience. Prisoners began faking exhaustion, collapsing at certain times. Guards fell into patterns, paying less attention. Food carts were sabotaged, forcing aliens to send fewer patrols. Little by little, the cracks appeared. Next came tools. Singh smuggled out parts, building crude devices, a hidden transmitter, a lock breaker, a spark generator that could short the collars, all disguised as broken junk. Then came courage. Keller whispered to the others at night, "When the moment comes, you fight. Don't hesitate. Don't wait for someone else. We move together, or we die apart." At first, many were afraid, but fear slowly turned into anger, and anger into resolve. The prisoners were ready. The breakout began on the coldest night of Carthos. The guards changed shift. Lights dimmed. The alien overseers grew careless, as they always did. That was when Singh triggered her spark device. A shower of blue light flickered across the slave pens. Shock collars sputtered, then fell silent. For the first time in years, the humans were free of the electric chains. The guards didn't notice at first. But when they did, it was too late. Keller struck first, ripping a pipe from a wall and smashing it into the nearest guard. Prisoners surged behind him, roaring with fury long denied. They wrestled weapons from stunned aliens, turning rifles on their captors. Chaos erupted. Prisoners swarmed the towers, overwhelming guard before alarms could sound. Explosives planted in the mines tore open gates. Fire spread across the camp. The aliens tried to rally, but panic spread faster than orders. For the first time, the hunters felt hunted. Keller led a charge toward the landing pads. Alien dropships sat waiting, guarded but vulnerable. Humans stormed them, fighting hand to hand, spilling blood across the steel. One by one, the ships fell. Prisoners who had been slaves hours ago now stood at the controls of stolen warcraft. Singh hacked into the systems, overriding alien locks. Engines roared. The sky above Carthos lit with fire as the humans launched into the night. The escape was not clean. Many died. Some ships were destroyed before leaving atmosphere. Others vanished in alien crossfire. But enough made it. Enough carried the story. The galaxy soon heard the tale, the night the humans broke their chains. It spread like wildfire. To alien warlords, it was a warning. To human soldiers, it was hope. And to those still enslaved across the stars, it was a promise. Humans can never be caged forever. Years later, when veterans of Carthos told their stories, they always remembered one moment. Not the battles, not the blood, not even the escape, but the silence right after the collars fell dead. For the first time in so long, they had felt truly free. And in that silence, they made a vow. Never again. The prisoners who escaped was more than a story. It became a legend that terrified their captors and inspired their people. Because the aliens had tried to chain humanity, and all they had done was forge humanity's will into unbreakable steel.